She was Hollywood's first true blonde bombshell, blazing through the 1930s with a knockout smile, scandalous love affairs, and a screen presence that left audiences enthralled. Even now, if you catch an old black and white film starring Jean Harlow, you can't help but sense her raw energy flicker across the decades. There's something reckless in the way she flashes her eyes, tosses those platinum curls, and delivers lines that drip with a flirtatious edge, like she's daring the world to keep pace. But behind that shiny facade lay a life spinning out of control. She was simultaneously worshipped by fans and brutalized by the men around her, shaped by a domineering mother and entangled in Hollywood's darkest secrets. One scandal piled on another, culminating in a tragic death at just 26 years old. In her wake, Harlow left a blueprint for the sex symbol in modern pop culture, fierce on camera, fragile behind the scenes. To this day, we're still piecing together how her life burned so bright and ended so cruelly soon. Try to imagine a teenage girl in 1920s America, Harleen Carpenter, as she was originally named, born in 1911, raised in relative comfort, but never quite fitting in with Midwest normality. She had a certain glow from childhood, an intangible spark that caught people's eye. By 16, that glow led her down an unexpected path. She eloped with Charles McGrew, a 23-year-old heir to a brewing fortune. Let's freeze frame that moment, September 21st, 1927. She's 16. She's wearing a simple dress, maybe sweaty with nerves, her blonde hair pinned back. He's older, loaded with money, and has a rebellious streak of his own. They run off to get married against her mother's furious objections. This was no cutesy teenage rebellion. The press labeled it a scandal. A minor hooking up with a wealthy playboy. People whispered that she was a gold digger, that she used his wallet to leapfrog into a high society life. 2 years later, the relationship disintegrated, and she walked away with $125 per month in support, about $2,200 in today's money, enough to survive, not enough to truly thrive. The tabloids had a field day. They painted her as a teenage opportunist who'd done this for a quick fling, fueling a media narrative that would follow her to Hollywood. The cunning blonde who uses men to get ahead. But you have to wonder, at 16, how aware was she of the chaos she'd stepped into? After that fiasco, she drifted to Los Angeles. She'd soon rename herself Jean Harlow, a stage identity that exuded style and sex appeal. But in 1928, she was still an unknown, occasionally calling herself Harleen Carpenter or Harleen McGrew. Broke and restless, she took any gig she could find, including modeling gigs that verged on the risque. In fact, she posed for nude photos under hush-hush arrangements, an act that would come back to haunt her once she was famous. She also snagged small, nameless roles in low-budget flicks like Moran of the Marines, 1928, sometimes flaunting skin or being used purely as a decorative extra. Hollywood at the time was teetering between silent pictures and the talkies, enthralled by the novelty of sound, but not quite sure how to handle it. In a weird twist, her shapely figure and sultry face overshadowed the fact that her voice, low, almost husky, would become an asset. By 1930, that voice was front and center in Howard Hughes's Hell's Angels, the big spectacle war drama that soared at the box office. She was billed as the sizzling new star, with marketing lines like, "Would you be shocked if I put on something more comfortable?" Everyone gaped. The censors complained, religious groups picketed, and audiences, especially men, fell for her with a kind of stunned fascination. The platinum blonde phenomenon had arrived. By then she was about 19, catapulted to stardom in a film that capitalized on her looks more than her craft. That exploitation was the name of the game in early Hollywood, especially for an actress who exuded raw sexual appeal. Harlow let Hughes and the PR team spin her image as a daring seductress. She got the headlines, the magazine covers, the fan letters by the hundreds. Meanwhile, behind the camera, her personal life was a whirlwind of questionable decisions and heartbreak. If the teenage marriage had ended in 1929, now it was time for Act Two in her romantic drama. On July 2nd, 1932, she made a move that, in hindsight, was catastrophic. She married Paul Byrne, a high-level producer at MGM. The wedding took place at a small ceremony. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, the biggest studio in town, was drooling over the idea that their star bombshell was tying the knot with a refined Hollywood gentleman, hoping it would tamp down her scandalous reputation. Byrne, older than Harlow by a decade or so, was rumored to be a complex figure, intelligent, quiet, tortured. Studio gossip suggested he had certain personal issues, maybe impotence, maybe a hidden double life. The marriage was bizarre from the get-go. She was open about her desire for a passionate relationship. Rumors swirled that Byrne couldn't consummate the union. He wrote strange letters implying guilt or shame. Then, just 2 months after the wedding, tragedy struck. On September 5th, 1932, Byrne was found dead in their home, nude, a bullet wound to his head. A note left behind read like a suicide letter. He apologized for not being able to make her happy, but the speculation went haywire. Some said Byrne was murdered by a mysterious ex-lover named Dorothy Millette, who later drowned herself in a possible suicide. Others claimed MGM orchestrated a cover-up to protect Harlow's star status. The rumor that Eddie Mannix, the studio fixer, staged the scene to hush up a more violent confrontation gained traction. The story was an unstoppable tabloid fire. Harlow, reeling from the shock, retreated. She refused to attend the coroner's inquest, claiming illness and filming commitments. The press started calling her the kiss of death, whispering that men around her ended up ruined. Meanwhile, the studio poured money into controlling the narrative, spinning it as a straightforward suicide fueled by Byrne's despair at failing Harlow. No formal charges were filed. Byrne's body was buried quickly, and Harlow tried to soldier on by diving into another film, Red Dust, starring Clark Gable. That film soared at the box office, ironically capitalizing on her mystery widow status. She was a star bigger than ever, but at what cost? Within a year, the Paul Byrne scandal was overshadowed by yet another drama. In 1933, she embarked on an affair with Max Baer, the heavyweight boxing champion, known for his brute force in the ring. He was handsome, charismatic, and married. The tabloids howled. Baer's estranged wife, Dorothy Dunbar, sued him for failing to finalize a divorce, naming Harlow as the other woman. MGM, petrified of more negative press, forced Harlow into a hasty sham marriage to the studio cinematographer Harold Rawson, presumably to quell the gossip. The arrangement reeked of a publicity stunt. She parted ways with Baer, who quietly wandered back to the boxing circuit, while Harlow paid Rawson a settlement of $15,000 for their quickie divorce in September 1934. Equivalent to around $350,000 today. This pattern of forced short marriages painted Harlow as a walking scandal magnet. The public recognized her comedic talents in dinner party farces like Dinner at 8, 1933. But behind that comedic veneer lay a woman whose personal life was an unstoppable roller coaster. The fans either pitied her or deemed her a homewrecker. She was 22, financially secure, but emotionally shattered with 2 divorces and 1 dead husband behind her. Then came William Powell. He was a suave leading man, older by nearly 20 years, known for his witty comedic style and sophisticated air. He co-starred with Harlow in Reckless, 1935, igniting real-life sparks. For a moment, it seemed this might be a stable relationship. Powell was established, elegant, and protective. She was the vivacious star, longing for a calmer love. Yet Powell wasn't keen on marriage, suspecting that Harlow's thirst for drama might overshadow domestic tranquility. They dated passionately for a couple of years, with tabloids screaming that Harlow wanted a ring, and Powell kept deflecting. Rumors flared that she'd gotten pregnant and undergone a secret abortion to avoid tarnishing her image and his. No one confirmed it, but the timing matched whispers from film sets. Her mother, Jean Poe, an ardent follower of Christian Science, apparently discouraged hospitals or invasive medical procedures. If Harlow did endure a clandestine abortion, it would have been hush-hush, fueling her sense of isolation. She was caught in a swirl, a big star on the screen, but behind the scenes a lonely soul with a manipulative mother and a boyfriend who wouldn't marry her. By May 1937, Harlow's health took a nosedive. She was filming Saratoga with Clark Gable at MGM, a rom-com that promised to amuse audiences and keep her comedic star shining. She started complaining of exhaustion, abdominal pain, and nausea. The set's atmosphere turned dark. Gable later told a friend that he noticed a distinct smell on her breath, like urine, a possible sign of kidney failure. She pressed on, determined to fulfill her contract. Directors and producers assumed she might have the flu or a gallbladder issue. They misdiagnosed, gave her a break or two, then pushed her back onto the set. By May 29th, she collapsed mid-scene, prompting a wave of panic. The doctors on site quickly realized something serious was happening, but conflicting diagnoses followed. Maybe it was an inflamed gallbladder. Maybe it was acute indigestion. Some pinned it on exhaustion from her hectic personal life. The reality was far more dire. Her kidneys, long damaged, some say from scarlet fever as a teen, others from chronic stress and possible substance misuse, were shutting down. On June 6, 1937, she was rushed to Good Samaritan Hospital. By then, her body was failing. She drifted in and out of consciousness. That same day, doctors discovered she had advanced kidney failure, or uremic poisoning. In less than 24 hours, she slipped into a coma. William Powell, frantic, arrived at her bedside, along with her mother. Jean Poe, steadfast in her Christian Science beliefs, hesitated about medical interventions. Time was short. The doctors administered blood transfusions, oxygen, anything to stave off the inevitable. On June 7, 1937, at 11:37 a.m., Jean Harlow died, aged 26, leaving the studio, her fans, and all of Hollywood in shock. She was the biggest female star at MGM, outgrossing many male counterparts. Set to rule the box office for the next decade, her film Saratoga was incomplete. Her personal life was a swirl of broken engagements. She was gone, just like that, leaving behind a crater of grief and endless rumor. On June 9th, the funeral took place at the Wee Kirk of the Heather Chapel in Forest Lawn Memorial Park. Thousands gathered outside, some genuinely mourning, others seeking a glimpse of Hollywood's turmoil. Inside, luminaries like Spencer Tracy and other MGM royalty served as pallbearers. William Powell quietly paid for everything, including a lavish $25,000 marble crypt, over $500,000 in today's dollars. He inscribed "Our Baby" as a final tender farewell. That moment captured the complicated dynamic. Powell, who loved her deeply, never married her. Harlow, who craved stability, died before she could break free of the pattern of heartbreak. Some fans noted the eerie parallel to the unstoppable heartbreak that had characterized her life. She'd soared to fame, but never found lasting peace. In the days that followed, speculation about her cause of death took on a lurid tone. Some people insisted she'd been poisoned. Others claimed the studio covered up an abortion gone wrong. Still others said it was complications from her mother's refusal to let doctors properly treat her over the years. Studio heads and doctors, though, reaffirmed the official cause: uremic poisoning due to acute kidney failure. Her body was simply too worn down, having battled infections from a young age. The official story was that no autopsy was performed, but records indicated a standard medical examination. The rumor mill never fully quieted. In the 1930s Hollywood, people thrived on conspiracies. One particularly outlandish notion attempted to link Harlow's death to that of her second husband, Paul Byrne, weaving a narrative that some cosmic curse or malicious figure systematically ended them both. Over time, the chatter softened, overshadowed by fresh tragedies from new starlets. The final cut of Saratoga was pieced together using body doubles and old footage. Scenes where Harlow was absent had stand-ins mimicking her gestures, with cameras angled to hide the deception. The film was released a few weeks after her death, generating an outpouring of curiosity from fans. It made about $3 million, a robust sum for the era, becoming one of MGM's biggest hits that year. Watching it now, you can sense the intangible sorrow lurking just beyond the comedic script, an awareness that Harlow was already gone. In some scenes, you glimpse her eyes looking drained, face slightly puffy, subtle signs of her failing health. The success of that film was bittersweet, a testament to her star power even in absentia. By 1937, her image was mythic. She'd redefined the concept of the platinum blonde sex symbol, influencing everything from fashion trends to how female comedic stars approach the screen. She was funny, irreverent, unafraid to spar verbally with male co-stars, yet she was also battered by the men in her life, exploited by studios, manipulated by family. It's a story that resonates eerily with modern pop icons who sing about empowerment but often find themselves trapped by controlling managers, unscrupulous lovers, or industries that treat them as disposable. One wonders if Jean Harlow might have eventually used her comedic gifts to transition behind the camera as a producer or writer, forging a path for women in Hollywood. But at 26, with her kidneys failing, that possibility was extinguished. Her mother, Jean Poe, never wavered from her Christian Science approach, claiming that the doctors had done all they could, that her daughter's death was simply God's will. Critics pointed out that if Harlow had sought consistent medical help sooner, perhaps the kidney disease could have been managed. The rumor that she might have lived longer if her mother had not objected to some treatments lingers as an unsettling footnote. Meanwhile, William Powell sank into grief, filming less frequently that year. He did eventually return to the big screen, but there was always a note of heartbreak in his performances, perhaps an echo of the lively young woman he couldn't save. And so we watch her movies, dazzled by her comedic chops, the playful innuendos, the manner in which she steals scenes from bigger stars. We feel that pang of sadness that this is all we have left, flickering images on celluloid, capturing her spirit but never revealing the full truth. The next time you see her wink at the camera, delivering a sly one-liner that sets the audience roaring, remember the swirling secrets behind that wink. She was a comedic genius, yes, but also a young woman battered by personal tragedies, trying to navigate a world that offered her everything while demanding her soul. In 1937, that world took her away. In 2025, she remains an icon, an immortal figure whose short, blazing life continues to fascinate. She taught us that even the brightest lights can burn out in a blink, leaving behind a myth that never fully surrenders to explanation.